Welcome to The Middle Ground. I'm your host, Ohio Divided. Here we dive into all things sports. Ohio State, Michigan, the Bengals, the Browns, the Reds, college football, the NFL, college hoops, Major League Baseball. And hey, we might even dip into a little NBA when things get spicy. If it's happening in the sports world, we're talking about it right here on The Middle Ground. Before we get rolling, make sure you please like, subscribe, follow, retweet, do all the things that help this show grow. We appreciate each and every one of you. Now, let's get to the show. Hey, what's going on, everybody? It is Saturday, December 27th, and for the first time ever, we have Cam Underwood on the show, speaking on behalf of the Miami Hurricanes and the State of the U. Hope each and every one of you had a fantastic holiday, had a good Christmas with some family and some friends. I was able to spend some good time with a lot of loved ones and things. I was unfortunately down in Cam's area last weekend, down in Miami. Came back with a little bit of a sickness, so I've been fighting that. So I do apologize if I sound a little nasally or if I cough a couple times during this. I do apologize, kind of fighting with a little bit of that. With that being said, I did mention Cam Underwood from the State of the U has been able to join us today. We are very excited to have him. Somebody who has a ton of experience doing different podcasts like this, has a very well notable name on the internet and everything. I guess with further ado, Cam, welcome to The Middle Ground, and tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of your media career and how you kind of got to where you're at today.
Yeah, man, appreciate it. Glad to be here with everybody. Thank you for the invitation. Very excited for Cotton Bowl coming up, and we're going to talk about that for a good long time. As you said, my name is Cam Underwood, managing editor of State of the U. It's the SB Nation Miami Hurricanes blog. Been over there for more than 10 years. I think it's 12 years total, 10 years as managing editor, which is crazy now that I think about it. But just a lifelong sports fan who always loved to talk about sports. I was a high school teacher. I taught music and everything, but I also was like the announcer for all of the games and, events at the school. I worked at Miramar High School when Geno Smith was a sophomore to a senior in high school. Like, the one who went to West Virginia is now in the league.
Yeah.
And so I was always just around and just very interested in sports. And my first job was at Deerfield Beach High School when Denard Robinson was like a junior. So like from the first time that I started working after college, I was always around these elite athletic programs, and I would go to all these games and all these recruiting events and things like that. And I was just like, I'm here and I just want to talk about it. And so I just started talking about it, really. I had a little sports blog for the high school, and then I caught on with Canes Insight, another Miami blog, and then at the State of the U, managing the previous, actually a couple editors ago, reached out to me to do that, to go over there, and then I've just been doing that, and going to games, covering stuff, and just kind of sharing my own viewpoint on what's happening with people, and that's on the website StateoftheU.com, where we're always open, so please come fan with us. I co-host 2 different podcasts, and I've done guest spots on radio and podcasts all over South Florida and the country for the better part of 15 years. So that's a little bit about me.
Awesome. So you said that you were a teacher at the high school the same time Geno Smith was there?
Yeah, so my first job was Deerfield Beach, and that was when Denard Robinson and Jason Pierre-Paul, he was there before he went to JUCO. Jason Pierre-Paul's younger brother actually had my keyboard piano class.
Really?
And Jason came over to talk to me because his brother was not necessarily doing what he needed to do. Went out in the hallway, had a little bit of an attitude adjustment, and then never had a problem with the younger brother again. And then I went from there to Miramar High School, Geno Smith's sophomore year. So Geno Smith, Stedman Bailey, Terrence Gordine, Tracy Howard, Malcolm Lewis, Brian Edwards, like all these big time, recruits who went to all these big time places. Yeah, I was there for all of that. Pretty cool.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. I mean, us Buckeye fans, we know Denard Robinson obviously very, very well. Geno Smith is another well-notable name, quarterback in the league right now and everything. He's had a really good career. Even Jeremiah Smith's cousin, actually. And then, Jason Pierre-Paul, really good end in the NFL. Well aware of everything that he did as he got into the league and things. So that's really, really cool. You guys, you have a pretty big hotbed of just talent down there in South Florida. How far are you from, like, where Jeremiah Smith grew up?
So I live in downtown Fort Lauderdale presently, but I went to the
Okay.
University of Miami, so that's where my connection comes from. If anybody was wondering, I'm a native Michigander. I actually grew up in Detroit. My uncle went to the University of Michigan, so I love that capital M in the graphic for the middle ground. I love that. Um, but yeah, came down here, and so I've lived all over South Florida from Boca to almost the Keys, basically. So, um, very close. I'm probably a 10-minute drive from St. Thomas Aquinas, the legendary high school here in Fort Lauderdale.
Yep.
Well, one of them. I've lived further south when I worked at Miramar High School down kind of in the Hollywood, um, Miami Gardens area, which is like near to where the school is. So that was like my old apartment in Hollywood was probably 5 minutes from Chaminade High School, where Jeremiah Smith and JoJo Trader and all those guys went to high school. So I would actually drive past Chaminade every day on my way to work at Miramar. And clearly, like I said, I worked at Miramar when Geno Smith was there, who's first cousins with Jeremiah. So yeah, it's all pretty close here. I mean, you're almost no matter where you live, from Boca to to Homestead, you're probably 90 minutes from the terminal end either way. So if you're way south, you're 90 minutes from the top, and then vice versa. So yeah, right in the same backyard. I go by the same parks and things. For example, like Malachi Toney had an event at Washington Park, right in Hollywood. So his turkey drive, and that's right on Pembroke Road, where I used to drive past on the way to the school when I worked there. So short story long, around the corner, basically from where he went to high school and also
Yeah.
where he lives.
Yeah, that's awesome. And we'll get into Malachi Toney. I honestly, before I started to dig into Miami, I honestly didn't know. I knew the guy's name. I knew he was one of Miami's best players, but I didn't realize he was different until I actually sat down and watched him play. That boy is a
Yeah,
top 10 player at minimum in college football, and he is a lot better than whatever I thought going in. So we'll get into that later. And real quick before we get into everything, I want to there's probably a lot of new viewers on here, at least probably from Ohio State and Miami side. We are a very young podcast, so Cam, to have somebody like you that has a ton of experience doing this type of stuff to come on here, I'm very grateful for that. Very appreciative of you putting your time aside to come on to the show. But really, Michigan Metal, if some of you guys have seen him on X, him and I started this podcast a few months ago where he's the Michigan side of things, I'm the Ohio State side of things, but we didn't really want it to end there. As we root for big brands like Michigan, like Ohio State, we're going to get in contests, we're going to get in games and bowl games, high-key stake games with a lot of these bigger brands that are out there. So we always kind of envision this, and right now is kind of our hot time with the college football playoff, even though Michigan's left at home. But I'll let you keep that aside, Metal. But we wanted to take some time to get some of these other bigger brands, maybe some people that are out there in the social media world that we see on the timeline a lot, get them in here, have a conversation about your team, have a conversation about my team, how we think we can exploit you, how you think you can exploit us, and kind of really just have an unbiased conversation around the game. So really appreciate you stopping in, Cam. With that being said, I think let's just get into it. So
Let's do it.
the 2003 Natty, and I don't want to spend like a ton of time on this because it's kind of probably just beating a dead horse at this point. As soon as I saw Ohio State was playing Miami, when I went on Twitter, like that's all you saw was highlights from the 2003 National Championship. There's still probably some bad blood, maybe a bad call that was out there in Miami that went in Ohio State's favor against Miami. Talk to me a little bit about like what is the vibes around like this game and how it's connected into that game. And then where I really said is like, I'm like, for the fans, it probably means a lot more to the fans than the actual players. Like a lot of these players that are playing for Miami and Ohio State weren't even alive when that game happened probably. So like how much do they really care other than like this is just Ohio State, Miami, like we're going to go out and we're going to show out because it's two big brands clashing. But talk to me a little bit about like what is the vibe in Miami like to get that get back basically against Ohio State, who in your guys' eyes stole an natty from you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Terry Porter is one of the most vile people ever to walk the face of the earth. He absolutely cheated. Miami won that game. I've always said that Miami won that game. My best friend was, or one of my very good friends was the band captain for the marching band for the University of Miami. One of my other good friends was on that team as the holder for kicks and extra points. Um, we were on the field celebrating. It was ruled incomplete, said game over. And then all of a sudden they're like, well, hey, wait. Um, yeah, it was absolute and total travesty. And I do not
Yeah.
recognize that as a loss because we were cheated. It means more to me and the fans, um, because like we talk about the game all of the time. You know what I mean? So it is us, we who will have to or have relived that game. You know, for all of these years. For the players, they're going to want to go out and just do their job and do the
Right.
best thing possible, which is to go win. You know, so like it's for the players, it's a matter of this is the team across from us. We want to play with excellence and beat that team because this is the moment that they're playing. This is the story of their career, and that's how they're leaning into it. It's for you and I and everybody else to talk about the historical comparisons and the you remember the last time and da 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 da. Well, I mean, which wasn't the last time because these teams played a home and home in 10 and 11, with the
Hmm.
home team winning each of those games. So we've played since then, you know, but like, do you really want to talk about a Luke Fickell led Ohio State team? Do I really want to talk about an Al Golden first season Miami team? I really don't.
we
You
were
know what I
both
mean? But
we were both pretty low at that point in time.
down real bad.
Yeah.
But those I mean, and that was I mean, it was marquee in the years that they played in 10 and 11, but like this is a game of consequence, which has the most direct correlation. So yeah, clearly like that's on the forefront of everybody's brains. Like, you know, as I'm writing stuff or our staff is writing things, you know, we're obviously going to have a piece about that either tomorrow or Monday, looking at the comparison. When I go on YouTube, of course, I watch a whole bunch of Miami Hurricanes podcasts and content, including my own, just to, you know, feed the algorithm. But, you know, it's, full game Fiesta Bowl '03, full game highlights, and then like it's out there because it is a foundational moment in telling the story of college football. That game, whether you believe Miami got cheated or not or whatever, you cannot tell the story of college football without having that game at the forefront. And now in a major place, you're having another one of these. Well, these same teams match up, so yeah, really, really big from the narrative and from the psyche of the fans. I would think less so for the player. And for example, Malachi Toney, our beloved superstar true freshman receiver, he turned 18 years old in September. Like after the season had started, he started the year that those two touchdowns against Notre Dame. Yeah, he was 17 years old.
17.
So, you know, quick math, carry the one. Like he wasn't even a thought. He was still a
Yeah.
star. You know what I mean? Like as
Yeah.
in like in the cosmos somewhere before coming to this mortal coil for several years at the time that this game had happened.
Yeah, even for myself, like I'm only 28 years old, so I remember the game, but I was so young that I didn't really understand, like, I don't know, the baggage, the circumstances, like everything that kind of went into it. Obviously, I see a lot of the highlights and things that went into it now. Like you see it everywhere as an Ohio State fan, as a Miami fan. Like
Yeah.
the call looked ticky tack to me, if you ask me. Like I don't know. I know there was a lot more that went into it other than that, but I mean,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, what happened happened. It's not really like we can really go back and erase history. But I can't sit here and say that no, that was a 100% clean call. I think I'm right there with you. Like that was a pretty ticky tack call, and I always try to look at things if I'm on the other side of the fence, and that was me that was getting called against. I would have been livid. I would have been pissed. I would have
Yeah.
crashed out. So.
Yep.
Yeah,
Did all of those things, and yeah. So I'm substantially older than you are. I was a junior in college then.
Okay.
So we 2000 was my freshman year. We lost the second game against Washington. Didn't lose again until my senior year against North Carolina because we didn't lose that game. That Fiesta Bowl, we did not lose that game. But yeah, that was at the end of my junior year or the middle of my junior year of college. So yeah, I was very attuned to all the things going on there. And yeah, so I mean, like from an emotional standpoint as a fan, like yeah, I feel that we got cheated, and this is an opportunity maybe to not necessarily fully right that wrong because like even when Miami wins this game, there's still 2 more games to go to get a championship. So you're not going to
Yeah.
get that full replacement of what was stolen from us, I believe. But still, I mean, I would rather, like, there's no team I hate more than Ohio State. Like, again, as a native Michigander who
Yeah.
grew up as a Michigan fan and then went to Miami, literally the 3 teams I root for every week, and I've said this in public, on social media, wherever you want to call it, the 3 teams I root for every week are number 1 Miami, number 2 Michigan, number 3 whoever's playing Ohio State. Literally every single week. Like, yes, this is superb. Like, this is the most hatred that I have. But with all that being said, I also am analytical and just kind of a reasoned person, which sometimes makes my fan base or the readership at State of the U a little upset that I can be so pragmatic. And I'm like, I'm not going to lie to kick it. I'm not going to sit here and say that, like, Ohio State is terrible. I'm not going to say we're going to win 59-3. I want that to happen, but, like, that wouldn't be real, or authentic. So yeah, I always try to, give credit where it's due. And unfortunately, I have to give credit because you guys have a very strong team.
Yeah, I mean, I feel I have basically the same feelings. Obviously, I don't really have any hard feelings for Miami because in my lifetime, I've seen them play 3 times. One was when I was really young, and the other 2 were whenever we both sucked. So I don't really have any hard feelings against Miami, but I'm right there with you. I absolutely cannot stand, absolutely hate Michigan. And unfortunately, it was kind of just the way that we were both born. I was born into, like, just being an Ohio State fan. You were born into being a Michigan fan. You went down to Miami, and that's just kind of how it played out and everything. But I don't think that still takes away from, like, 2 guys' ability to get on a podcast and say, look, I fucking hate you. I hate your team. I hate everything about you. But I'm still willing to come on here, have an unbiased conversation, and talk about key talking points and really how we're going to get to who's going to win this game at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, ball is ball, and we can evaluate it as such. So, like, I mean, like, there is a measure of perspective, obviously, because I'm looking at it from a Miami perspective, and you're looking at it from Ohio State perspective. But, like, the unbiased part is, like, presenting the facts as we see them and, evaluating the performance as we see it and then moving forward from there. So, yeah, this is, what we do in the, commentary and analysis business. Like, you had to bring yourself to the conversation, and, I'm excited to get into it.
Yes, sir. So let's start with Ryan Day calling plays for Ohio State. From my perspective, I absolutely love this. I think it is the best decision that Ryan Day could have made. I think it is the best case scenario for Ohio State going forward. Brian Hartline is completely tapped out right now. Basically, since the entire week of the Indiana game, which I think played a big part into why Ohio State's game plan sucked as much as what it did that game, like, he has been getting acquainted with being South Florida's head coach. He's been flying down there constantly. He's been trying to form his staff down there. The portal is about to open. He's trying to retain players, trying to get things squared away. So he's not able to give his complete focus to putting together an effective game plan like Ryan Day can, who is there 24/7, has been a part of the offensive game plans his entire time at Ohio State because obviously why would he not be? He's an offensive guy, came from the NFL, offensive mindset, called plays for a really long time, gave it up last year to Chip Kelly, and then now taking it back this year. So I personally really, really like it. I think it is the best case scenario for Ohio State. My big thing with Ryan Day is don't go complacent because sometimes he goes complacent. Sometimes he likes to trot out 3 tight end sets, 4 tight end sets, pull Jeremiah Smith, pull Carnell Tate off the field, especially in the red zone, which is beyond idiotic to me. Why you would even ever voluntarily take either one of those 2 off the field, especially whenever you're in money downs looking to score. I think if he goes in with an aggressive game plan, looking to step on somebody's throat, looking to smack somebody in the mouth, take shots downfield, like make the other team play on their heels and play on Ohio State's terms, I'm all for it. But if he turns into 2024 against Michigan when Ohio State lost 13-10 Ryan Day, or in the Big Ten Championship when they lost to Indiana with basically a very similar game plan where you get into a rock fight, you try to play out of a phone booth. Like, Miami is not a team you want to take into a phone booth or into a rock fight. They are physical, they are tough, and they can tackle really well. That is not in Ohio State's favor. That it plays right into what Miami wants to do. What Miami doesn't want to do and what nobody wants to see from Ohio State is guys in motion, play action, sending the ball downfield, getting the ball to number 4, getting the ball to number 17, getting Claire over the middle. Like, that is what makes Ohio State really, really, really hard to stop. And if Ryan Day goes in with the play calling duties as that approach, I like it for the Miami game and then beyond.
Interesting. Okay. I wasn't so then from your response or your lead there, you believe Brian Hartline was not putting his full mental ability effort into cultivating the game plan for like the Indiana game of the Big Ten championship. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think he was very distracted that week. That was just a really, really, really bad week from all fronts. Like, the morning of signing day, Brian Hartline, it gets announced like right away. I remember looking at my phone at like 8 or 9 in the morning. Brian Hartline's going to South Florida. And then from there, right after that, you had all the Chris Henry Jr. stuff. He decommitted. You had all that drama trickle into Thursday and then into Friday. And then actually on the Pat McAfee show on Friday at noon, Chris Henry Jr. finally made his decision to actually end up coming to Ohio State. And all through that time, like, obviously Hartline is probably going through contract negotiations. I think he actually flew down there to South Florida. Now, I'm not saying that he, like, obviously, like, purposefully put together a bad game plan or anything like that. I just think that his mind was elsewhere, and they didn't really go in as well equipped as what they probably should have. The other side of this is I think there's a narrative out there that Ohio State has kind of held some things back this entire year, and they kind of played a very vanilla game, vanilla offense. Just they've like, I think from like them to like Tennessee, who ran like the most plays of anybody in college football, they played like 3 games less in terms of snaps, just because Ohio State played this huddle, slow, methodical offense. Because they played a dog shit schedule. I'll call it for how it is. Their schedule was really weak. So there was really no reason for them to ever show anything. And when the time came to show it, which was Indiana, they came in, had all those distractions, really get bad game plan, and Indiana punched them in the mouth and they got beat.
All right. All kind of some new things for me to hear and learn. Okay. I think Ryan Day, he can definitely call some plays. He's done it for many years. For me, what I feel like is going to happen here is your desire that you said of you don't want Ryan Day to be conservative calling plays. And, going to, 3 tight end sets in the red zone. Please, God, take Jeremiah off the field as much as possible. Like that. I said, him and Carnell, both, who, I know because I used to go to all the 7-on-7, the SFE events, South Florida Express down here. So, like, I've known of, even Carnell because he went to IMG and was playing.
Carnell's like that, too. He is. And he's underrated, in my opinion.
He is very, but I mean, you also have the best player in the sport at the same position. So, like, he's not underrated. It's just that,
all the attention,
a very bright star gets, drowned out by the sun, kind of a thing. You know what I mean? But I don't remember what year it was, but it was a Michigan-Ohio State game. It was when Urban was the coach. And in the lead up to that game, I remember specifically one journalist asked Urban, said, well, how are you preparing to like run the ball 40 times and basically like get into this physical battle against Michigan? Like, how are you preparing and he kind of looked at the journalist and kind of smirked. He's like, we're not. And everybody was like, oh my God, he's not going to do. And then they went like 4 and 5 wide and like, they were like, cool, we're going to blur them up top. They can't run with us. What are you talking about? 3 yards in a cloud of dust. It's going to be 65 yards and 7 points on the board, buddy. Yeah. And I just remember that presser so strongly because Urban looked at this dude like, you're outside of your mind because if you are like representing what Michigan is thinking, that we're going to try to like walk the ball down the field in the old Bo Schembechler, Woody Hayes, 3 yards in a cloud of dust.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness, I got something for you. And I feel that's what I felt when you gave that Ryan Day response of like you don't want him to go conservative or like
Yep.
you can obviously look back at the last game Miami played, which was not intentionally a rock fight, but it became a rock fight, and the winning
Yeah.
team scored 10 points, right? So you can say, okay, this is the script that Miami wants to take. It's not, but it worked, and you can see, okay, well, maybe your team and coach is going to try to match that. Whereas I'm looking at, and I know that he's the number 3 receiver, Brandon Innes, who's from down here, played for South
Mm-hmm.
Florida Express, went to American Heritage, University School before that. Miami was recruiting him since he was in 8th grade, playing varsity snaps at University School back when they were only called University School before they fully went over with Nova University and whatever. But that's a kid that we've known for more than a decade. Carnell Tate, like I said, he played for South Florida Express, is like that. Jeremiah Smith is the best prospect I've seen in the 25 years I've lived down here. And you have all of them and more in the receiving core, and you're worried about 3 tight ends? It's about to be the bomb squad. What are you
Thank
talking
you.
about? And I
Thank you.
feel I feel that. I feel from a schematic engagement point, Ohio State's not going to try to box it in. They're going to try to spread it out and go blur. Because even if you find, and the mindset from Ohio State has to be, even if you find what you think is a good matchup against Ennis or Tate or Smith, we got an advantage with the other 2. And likely we got an advantage with J Foe because J Foe is unlike anybody else. So even if you think you have an advantage over there, you don't. Like, if that's not the mentality, then like fire Ryan Day tomorrow.
Yes.
Because what are you, yeah, but yeah, so like when you said that, that's what I thought. I think a lot of your fan base might be conservative about the conservatism. I think that he's looking for ways to really blur and find
Yes.
open field down the field for the receivers.
So you are literally hitting it on the nail. What frustrates the hell out of Ohio State, especially whenever you look at Ryan Day's last 2 losses against Indiana, against Michigan. Why against Michigan are we trying to run the ball time and time again between the tackles into Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant, who are 2 first-round D tackles? It's arrogance, and it's trying to play. That game was strictly arrogance. You have number 4. You have Emeka Egbuka. You have Carnell Tate. You have Brandon Ennis. Why are we trying to run into the strength of their team? They want to play a rock fight. And Ryan Day, I think at that point, had been called soft. Like he can't, like, all the narratives that were out there, and his goal was to go into that game and shut up those soft narratives. Look, Ryan, nobody's going to call you soft whenever you're dropping 40-point bombs on people's heads, launching the bitch down the field 50 yards. Nobody's going to care. If you end up winning, nobody's going to call you soft. And I think that just got into his head so much, and that was the biggest difference when you saw this year against Michigan. I saw that very first play of the game. It was a 50-yard bomb right down the field to Carnell Tate, and I said, all right, we're going to win. Because he figured it out. Like, don't go conservative. Don't get into a rock fight. Don't play out of a phone booth, because that goes right into what Michigan is. That's how Michigan wants to play. And Miami is very similar. They are tough. They are big. They are physical. They can run the ball. That's the type of game that Miami wants to play, and probably most teams want to play against Ohio State. Nobody wants to get into a track meet with Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, Brandon Ennis, Quincy Porter, Bo Jackson, like Max Clare. Nobody wants to get into a track meet of that stuff, especially when you got guys going in motion, you got play action, you getting the screen game out. Like, that's when Ohio State is tough, and that is when they are lethal. And that's what Ryan Day needs to bring out whenever I say he's calling the plays. And you're going to see me continue to tweet up until the game, hunt. Play on Ohio State's terms. Hunt. Be the attacker. Don't play into how some of these teams want to play. Your advantage is number 4, number 17. You have the most accurate quarterback who happened to be a Heisman finalist going into the season. Use them. That's what you're good at. That's what keeps defensive coordinators and other opposing coaches up at night. Not your ability to turn around and hand the ball off for 3 yards.
I mean, and there are times when that is the thing.
Yeah.
That, carries the day. But yeah, that's, I mean, and when you start hitting some throws, then that will open up the run game. But it's definitely that. But yeah,
Exactly.
I mean, I'm hopeful that Ryan Day decides that he wants to be his, buttoned up conservative self. Especially like hearing and watching his kind of response about it, being asked about calling plays and things like that. Like I said, it gave me big Urban Meyer vibes from whatever year that was. It was just like, I understand why you're asking that question, but you're asking the wrong question because we're looking in a completely different direction. And then after the game, it was just one of those things. Or it was just like, yeah, I wasn't going to give away the game plan or anything, but like I
Yeah.
kind of had to school my face to like not really react and give anything away. But like, yeah, y'all were talking about how we're going to run the ball. I mean, if you're talking about taking a knee at the end of the game, sure, after we hang 500 yards and 60 points on these boys, but
Yeah.
yeah, but it will be interesting. Our defensive coordinator, Corey Heatherman, talked about going back to previous games where Ryan Day had called plays to look at some of the, tendencies and schemes and things that were run there. And, we're looking for probably a little bit of a difference in both running and passing schemes that are employed in the Cotton Bowl from what you ran for the majority of the season. Not a wholesale change, because at this point, like, you are who you are, and staples are staples of the offense, but there's going
Right.
to be a lot of tweaks. And, little tweaks make a big difference sometimes. So, yeah, that will be very interesting to see how Ryan Day fully taking the controls back will have, bear itself out to have impact in the game.
Yeah, and I think on another note, like I think that there's just a narrative out there, or kind of the feeling with Ohio State, like there's just a chip on their shoulder again. Like last year, I don't think that they would have won the national championship if they didn't lose to Michigan. That loss drove them to come out hungry and attacking, and I think that they're going to try to use a lot of those same vibes, same feelings going into this year. You lost the Big Ten championship. Obviously, it wasn't near as bad as losing to Michigan at home as like a 21-point favorite or whatnot. But you lose that game. Julian saying at the Heisman Trophy ceremony, not the fact that he lost, but the fact that you saw the pictures, I'm sure, like, there's only one reporter talking to him, and there's numerous reporters talking to all the other three guys. Like, you see that picture almost every year, and it kind of just drives kind of that, like, motivation into the guy. And then I think Jeremiah Smith, just him not winning the Blitnikoff, I think that pisses him off to an extent. So I think from kind of the same mindset that they had a year ago, I think that they're going to try to play that same card, as it's almost like Ohio against the world. They say that dumb narrative all the time, but it's kind of the narrative that they used last year, and I expect them to kind of use it this year, as we've been snubbed, we've gotten beat, nobody's talking about us, everybody's talking about our flaws right now. Like, let's go out and just unleash it. And a lot of that has to do with Ryan Day allowing that to happen.
And that's cool, but that's also a great value knockoff of the actual brand Detroit versus everybody. But I mean, look, this is competitive sport, man. So yeah, it is Miami against Ohio State, and that's what it is. And I'm fine with that, and I get where you're coming from with the off field, the narrative of like, oh well, they lost the final pre-playoff game this year and last year, and so there's a correlation, or at least just kind of the same scenario, regardless of where that game was. The game before the playoffs, they lost. All right, cool, but you're gonna have to go out and win this game, and that applies to both teams, right? And it's very interesting, you were tweeting out some of the facts and figures ahead of the game. These teams are very evenly matched on a lot of performance-based statistics through the course of this season. So, and, there were a lot, I see some of my Miami fan friends, arguing with, or just going back and forth with Ohio State people. My boy Kev, shout out to Kev. He said, Miami is built to go on a run. Like, they're built to compete for championships. They're built to go out and win this game. And so somebody replied to him and said, well, why did you lose to two teams that you're better than? And the response is, we didn't play well. Like, you're not hurting my feelings by calling out a result that happened, but you're also not necessarily going to mitigate the talent on this roster and the performance that we've seen by only focusing on the negatives, right? Like, the negatives exist. This is me being pragmatic. This is me being honest, right? The negatives exist. We played poorly in these games. Carson Beck had 3 of the worst games that he's had in college. I didn't think he played well against Florida, even though we won that game, but he had no touchdowns and 1 interception. And then he threw the ball to Louisville 4 freaking times. I hate Louisville, and they're mid, and they keep beating us because we play like dog shit when we play them. And then, yeah, we lost that game at SMU. I really thought that there were 3 of the worst calls I've ever seen that impacted that game. And I'm somebody who, because I had readers at the website say that I cried too much about officiating, I said, cool, I'm not going to talk about it anymore then. So I hear you with your feedback. Let's talk about ball. Let's talk about the performance. And then people are screaming at me, Cam, why are you not saying anything about the penalties? The penalties, the penalties. I said, well, hey, wait, you can't have it both ways.
What do you want,
right? Right. But if we're being real, the first interception that was on Carson Beck's record that hit his teammate, JoJo Trader, his high school teammate, JoJo Trader, in both hands. He couldn't catch it, fumbled it, tipped it up, and then the other safety caught the pick.
I think I posted that one. No, one. That was a perfect ball.
Right. Perfect. I mean, and look, and he had scored his first touchdown of the year on a drive previous to that, and we said, yo, you're out here cooking, so we're going to feed the hot hand. Is that on Carson? They called a sack fumble, incomplete pass, which was clearly a sack fumble, and we would have had the ball on the first play of third quarter inside the 15-yard line, and you overturn that. And on the last interception, JoJo Trader, the same guy who bobbled the ball for an interception before, he got tackled and dry humped in the back of the end zone in front of the back judge, who looked there and was like, ooh, toot that thing up, but didn't throw a flag. And that was where the ball was supposed to go. So if you watch the final play, Carson is actually they ran a whip route with Malachi Toney at the front of the end zone so that they would have the defender step up, create the window to throw the square in behind him. But since JoJo Trader got tackled and dry humped, he pump faked it and said, oh God, I need to throw this ball. And then he threw it obviously late because the ball wasn't supposed to go there, and Malachi Toney gets intercepted. Everybody's like, oh my God, interception. I'm like, yeah, but if you look at these calls that were not called, and there was also one where a defender grabbed Keelan Marion, a receiver. He grabbed both of his hands and pulled on it like my niece grabs and pulls on my arm when we're playing, like messing around. And then they threw the flag and picked it up. Those are all verifiable facts, guys.
Yeah.
Every single one of those from the SMU game. But Miami was in a position to lose those games because we didn't play well. But that doesn't mitigate the good that we saw, the top tier performances that we saw. And so you cannot tear down the whole roster and the whole season by saying, oh, well, you lost some games you shouldn't have lost. True. But also in there, you just acknowledge that we shouldn't have lost those. So that speaks to the kind of talent and performance that you believe could live inside this team.
Yeah. And the fact is, the losses only matter if you don't get in. The second you get in the playoff, the losses no longer matter. In my opinion, I think that losses are a positive. I honestly don't mind losing a game right before the playoff, because when there's failure, there's areas for improvement. You can go back and see, what did we not do right? Where did they exploit us? And what do we need to fix before we go on this playoff run? And which was exactly what Miami did, because I was looking at pretty deep into Miami's season from November 1st through the last 4 or 5 games of the season. They were boat racing everybody. I looked at the box score. I watched the A&M game. I watched the Pitt game. I watched the SMU game. SMU game, yeah, JoJo was cooking until that perfectly placed ball from Beck should have been caught, wasn't caught, and that kind of honestly changed that entire game. Or I think Miami probably rolls them as well. But Miami was rolling at that point in time. You can sit here and say, well, they were playing this team, that team. Honestly, it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, you go in, you take care of business, and you move on. If you're playing good football is good football. So I think Miami has a lot of good things to say about them. I think they have a lot of things that scare you. And whenever I saw Ohio State played Miami, I didn't watch the Texas A&M game live. I was actually at the beach in Fort Lauderdale while that game was going on. But I was like, hell yeah. I don't think Carson Beck's very good. I know they have a good defense. I know their DNs are really good, but I think their offense is terrible. But now as I've looked into it a little bit further, Carson Beck has been much better than what I thought. Malachi Toney is that dude. He is that dude. And JoJo Trader, I think his name is, he can make plays if you let him. And Mark Fletcher, really, really, really good running back. Now, he's not a guy that I'm not scared of him taking 70 yards to the house, but he's a guy that I worry about getting 25 carries a game when he's busting 5 to 6 yards per carry. He's a strong, downhill, good, really, really good college running back. So I must say, like, Miami was and is much better than what I had originally thought. Now that I've sat down and watched 3 or 4 games, I've dove into the analytics, and like you said, you look at the analytics that are up here on the screen. They are eerily similar to each other. Eerily similar to each other.
I mean, look, Ohio State went 12-0 through the regular season, right? Miami is literally 2 plays from that. 1 play against Louisville. Pick your play. Like, if we score or we stop them from scoring on a singular play, and same thing against SMU. And it would have been a win in regulation. A singular play. Like, those are the margins. So, yeah, this team is very talented. I think that they deserve to be here, and they continue to earn that by beating Texas A&M. And, Mark Fletcher, in case, I don't know how closely you follow recruiting, Mark Fletcher was committed to Ohio State. He was going to go to Columbus and then flipped and decided to stay here. And actually, years ago, there was a kid from Jacksonville, Marcus, I forget his last name. He was a running back. But he first flipped. He went from Miami to Ohio State. He played for you, but he didn't really play for you guys. Then, 3 years ago, we flipped Mark Fletcher. He stays home. Then 2 years ago, then we flipped Jordan Lyle from St. Thomas Aquinas, who was committed to O State. He flips and stays here. Lord Jesus, I'm forgetting names. Justin Scott, starting defensive tackle from Chicago. Same thing, committed to O State in a huge recruiting battle all along, but wanted to be at Miami. He flipped and actually wrote a piece about this on StateoftheU.com. Like, there's been a lot of recruiting battles. So, like, if you're talking about guys at the top of this roster, like, on both sides, like Kenyatta Jackson Jr. from Chaminade, same school as Jeremiah Smith, but, 4 years in front, or 3 years in front. Sorry, 2 years in front. But he's a guy that we wanted to keep home, and he goes, nah, buddy, I'm going to go up to Columbus. All right, like, that's a, direct recruiting thing. Like, Julian's saying it wasn't necessarily against y'all, but when he was committed to Alabama, he came on a recruiting trip with the 7-on-7 team, and Mike Rumpf, the former first-round draft pick who used to be a cornerbacks coach, now he works in recruiting, he was giving this impassioned speech about coming to Miami. And he's looking directly at Julian Sand and talking about, I don't know why anybody here will want to be committed to Alabama. Like, Tuscaloosa is lit on Saturdays, but, like, you got to live there. There ain't nothing to do there. And Julian's saying, there's a video camera there. It's up on social media. I promise you can go find this. And he looks at the camera and, like, smirks and rolls his eyes. He's just like, I'm not coming here. Like, what are you like? I don't care what you say, boss. So, like, like things like that. But yeah, on both sides, there's lots of connections and everything, and lots of talent all over this roster, both rosters. So really excited to see how that plays out.
Yeah, I think I have a tweet in the drafts. It's something about Malachi Toney, and I'm like, this is as big for Malachi Toney as it is everything else, because he was one of the kids, and he's not the only one. He's just probably the biggest name that's out there, aside from Jeremiah Smith. He was the one that decided to stay home at Miami and watch all these other guys that he played against in high school, or they went to schools close by to him. And he watched them decide, no, I'm not going to stay home. I'm going to go up north to Columbus. And there's going to be kind of that little chip, you guys left here, but we stayed, and we're here to prove to you, you guys made the wrong decision. So I think that there's a lot more of, like, that type of stuff that's going to be played into this game, rather than we're pissed off about the 2020 or the 2003 national championship. They don't care about that the kids don't care about that. They weren't alive during it. But it's more so they went through recruiting battles, and you're right. There's a long history with a number of guys here that were down between Miami, Ohio State, or whatever other school that they were involved with, that there's some history here. It's not just Ohio State and Miami meeting up on New Year's Eve. This has kind of been some build up, like a long time coming.
Yeah, I mean, especially with the receivers. I mean, like I already mentioned, Brandon Innes, in the same class as Mark Fletcher. They were high school teammates. Obviously one plays for you guys, one plays for us. So like that's, and Miami recruited both of them. I, already said, one of our number 3 linebacker, his final 5 was Miami, State, Florida, Alabama, and Texas. Like a who's who of the world of college football recruiting him. His name is Popo Aguirre. But he plays for us. And there's several guys on both sides who no longer attend the schools that they committed to, like Air Noland. Like he was our number 1 quarterback on the board. And he goes, no, I'm going to go there. But then all of a sudden, Nick Saban retires, Julian Sayin pops up, and there goes your path to the field, buddy. Like, all due respect, like you're not him, and you're not going to play here. He goes to South Carolina, and then Lenore Sellers decides that he wants to come back for another year, and now Aaron Nolan's going to transfer somewhere else. So, I mean, there's been those wins and losses, and, players on the field, Jeremiah Smith, Julian Sayin, Kenyatta Watson, Jackson Jr., Justin Scott, Marquise Lightfoot, Jordan Lyle, if he gets snaps, we'll see about that. But yeah, there's plenty on both sides, but then there's also some that, Zaquan Patterson, Elias Rudolph, who's actually from Cincinnati. Neither of those guys are at Miami anymore. So yeah, there's been a lot of battles, and yeah, it's been years and years and years in the making. And even like your freshman, Zion Grady, Miami and State were the final 2 for him, or in the final group. And he's playing as a backup on the defensive line behind Kenyatta Jackson Jr. You know what I mean? Like PJ Alford, like, Jarquez Carter. We have his teammate from high school at defensive tackle, and try to get Jarquez as well. And he was like, cool, I will see you when we both go back to Newberry, Florida. And, we live around the block from each other, but I'm not going to Miami, even though, his teammate did. So yeah, it's been a lot of those battles, man.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. All right, let's get into kind of a little bit more of like just matchups within this game. So I first want to start off with Ohio State's offensive line against Miami's defensive line. First off, I think Miami has the best pass rush in college football. Bain and Messidor, and one thing that I learned, I think Messidor is a little bit more disruptive than Bain. Bain is the one that you hear about on ESPN all the time, but Messidor is a dog. And that has nothing bad to say about Bain either. They are both freaks coming off the edge. And one thing that I noticed watching Texas A&M, Pitt, and SMU, I thought that Texas A&M and SMU were a little bit more effective because they had mobile quarterbacks. They had Marcel Reed and whatever SMU's quarterback's name was. They were able to find creases, extend plays with their feet, and kind of get some scrambling yards and whatnot. Julian Sayin is fantastic against pressure. I think he is the number 1 rated quarterback against the blitz, and he is very mobile in the pocket. But he's not the type of guy that's going to escape and then go get scrambling yards. He's the type of guy that escapes to buy more time, and then he's either throwing it away or he's throwing it to somebody downfield. So, yes, I think Miami's D-line is very good, very disruptive, but it does worry me a little bit from Ohio State's standpoint where, Julian, we might need you to scramble a little bit here. I saw SMU do it. I saw Texas A&M have some success doing it, but that's not really who Julian is. He doesn't scramble or take off very often.
Yeah, and that's going to be key because you're going to have to find some time and space to be able to do that, to really extend these plays. Miami's defensive line and offensive line are the foundation of the program. I jokingly say it, but this is honestly true. The core of Mario Cristobal's philosophy of football starts with this phrase: big dudes close to the ball. Offense, defense, doesn't matter. Big dudes close to the ball. And then you go from there, and we have those in spades on both sides. Mesidor is a 6th-year senior. He had a couple, injuries early. He transferred in from West Virginia. So he lost a couple seasons to injury and everything, but he's finally playing up to the level of his talent. Obviously, Ruben Bain, consensus All-American. Marquise Lightfoot, the first guy off the bench, 5-star from Chicago that I already mentioned.
Yep.
Then you've got Third Scroggins, Herbert Scroggins the third, nicknamed Third, is a true freshman from South Georgia who plays in rotationally as well. And then also in the middle, these guys don't get all as much praise as the ends, but they've been elite all year long. You have Justin Scott, you have David Blay, and you have Ahmad Moten Sr. Those three interior defensive linemen, and then Armando Blunt also, who plays both outside and inside. He's like, I mean, chronologically, he's Malachi Toney as a sophomore because he, is an 18-year-old, just barely turned 19-year-old true sophomore who reclassified up as well, five-star talent in his own right. So, like, those 8 dudes rotating in up front have been taking people's lunch all year long. And in the run game, we're really stout and have taken that away, except for one stupid game against Virginia Tech where they ran for like 340 yards. Because they like made one tweak in the blocking for counter and outside zone, and it gashed because it was a rule breaker for our defense, and then whatever. But outside of that one game, we've really stopped the run, which then allows the pass rush to pin their ears back.
Yep.
And the secondary to be sticky. But yeah, up front, those guys, I know that 3 and 4, 3 being Mesdor and 4 being Bain, 3 and 4 lead the way. They get all the headlines, but everybody else in there, whether it's number 5, Justin Scott, number 11, David Blay, with number 99, Ahmad Moten, 12 is Lightfoot off the bench, 35 is third, Scroggins, 18 is Blunt. Like, all these guys come in and they make plays. They do their job, and they have varying levels of athleticism and, archetype builds and whatnot. But putting them together, being coached by Damian Lewis, a Miami alum who was a first-round draft pick, and Hall of Famer Jason Taylor, who is not just some vanity hire that people thought when he decided to come to Miami, like, oh, he's just doing a thing. No, he is on the trail recruiting. He is coaching these boys up and really getting the most out of them. And that has really been foundational to the overhaul on the defense and the success of the defense. And for Ohio State to have success in the Cotton Bowl, they're going to have to address the physicality of that group of 8 defensive linemen that we will rotate all 8 in there at various times. And then the run defensive scheme, because one of Bain's biggest superpowers is actually run defense. So
yeah, he's an animal. He's an animal against the run.
Look, if you try to block him with 1, GG's. If you try to block him with 2, he's still going to eat that block and then go make a play. Not every single time, but you get what I'm saying. But he is outstanding against the run. So how to combat that, I don't know. Maybe they're going to look at the Virginia Tech film, but we've already kind of adjusted to that adjustment. And then, just getting enough protection for the ball to get downfield. But honestly, I think that a lot of the lateral throws, the quick screens, the drags, the 3-step hitches, the ball's going to have to come out quickly, and then that will kind of maybe change the tempo of Miami's pass rush. And then you can kind of maybe do some play action or just try to hold the ball and go deep, but you're probably going to have to leave in a tight end or a running back or both to get the protection. But again, when you have receivers like J4 and Carnell Tate, you can leave everybody in the block because, at the end, like Julian Sand could have success with just, hey, fuck it, Jeremiah's down there, throw it. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, that battle up front is going to be foundational. And I think that the defensive line for Miami has to bring their same level of performing excellence to give the rest of the team a chance to be competitive in this game. If Miami is not impactful up front with just 4, I mean, Miami blitzes a fair amount, but it's really Keontae Scott from the slot who's the biggest blitzer, more than like your linebackers. You know what I mean? But more or less, it's Miami tries to get pressure with 4 and does a great job. We have to be able to do that. If you're not able to do that, then that changes the structural integrity of the defense. But I think that's going to tell the story of the game for Miami on defense with, some other caveats in there as well.
I think the biggest thing from Ohio State's standpoint on the offensive line is the right guard. We have our backup right guard that's going to be playing. And I'm sure a lot of Miami fans are like, hell yeah, backup, like we're going to eat that guy. Honestly, as most Ohio State fans know, that is probably for the better for Ohio State. So the normal right guard that has been in there, number 77, Tegra Shabola, and he has been buns all year. But like to the fact that I think he was benched 2 or 3 games this year in the middle of the year. And I think the only reason why he's been playing is because he played all of last year and he was okay last year. But I don't know what it is this year. There's a different right tackle out there. But whenever he is in there, I mean, he's had flashes where he's been okay. Like the Michigan game, he played really well. But then he just has some games where he plays very, very, very poorly. And one of those came against Indiana, and he actually got pulled in like the middle of the third or beginning of the fourth quarter. And a lot of times what you see is whenever he is in there, Ohio State's right tackle also doesn't play very well either. And there's been numerous times this year where they pulled him out or they've rotated him with Josh Padilla and Greg Van Sickle. And the run game pops better. The pass protection is better whenever Van Sickle and Padilla are in there. And then Daniels at right tackle, he ends up looking better and playing better as well. So I know that, yeah, they are down the guard, and I thought he was hurt, but then they posted some videos of him yesterday, and he's actually out there practicing and everything. I think it's just kind of like a silent benching, but I think that actually bodes well for Ohio State because the run game has been better, the pass protection has been better with those backup guys, and then the right tackle, Daniels, plays much, 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 much better as well. So The one thing that I do worry about is Miami's a different physicality. Van Sickle is probably going to be the guy that plays. I don't know if Padilla is still hurt. He's kind of been banged up this year as well. So that right guard spot is definitely a question mark that I would exploit if I was Miami. Yes, he's been good when he's been in there, but is Miami's physicality and the dudes across from you that you're going to be going against in Miami, they might just be different. They might just be bigger. They might just be stronger than everything that you've seen up until this point. So when you talk about Ryan Day calling plays and like the offensive scheme, the offensive game plan, I think you have to take that into account that we need to almost protect that guy a little bit. Like we need to stay out of second and third and long situations. I think first down execution is going to be vital to Ohio State and Miami. If both teams are sitting in second and third and long, offenses aren't going to do a whole lot. Pass rushes are going to get after. Both teams have really good pass rushes.
Yeah.
Carson Beck struggles against the blitz. Ohio State's going to dial up some blitzes. Neither team wants to live that. If you can get good positive plays and live in 2nd and 6, 3rd and 3, those type of easy downs or manageable downs, it's going to make it easier for both sides and to continue to move the chains against, let's call it, like probably 2 of the top 5 defenses in all of college football that probably going to be going against. And it's going to be which offense can execute better against the other. And a lot of that falls into Miami definitely has a massive advantage in the D-line against Ohio State's offensive line, who was exposed a little bit. They allowed 5 sacks against Indiana, and they had allowed 6 all season. And they go into Indiana. Indiana got after him 5 times. They did a lot of stunts. They did a lot of twists, things like that. Indiana's pass rush is a lot smaller. The guys are a lot smaller than what Miami are. But I think that where Indiana got to them, like they're so quick and they're so twitchy. They're a lot faster, and it caused issues up front. Once they took Tegra, number 77, out and they put Van Sickle in, you started to see the pass protection improve a lot, like that last quarter, the last 10 to 12 minutes of the game.
Well, duly noted. I'm sure that Miami will try to address that those issues with their rush plan for this game, and I'm interested to see how that bears itself out to be true. But yeah, we pride ourselves on being big and physical, and Mario Cristobal, when he came back to Miami, he wanted to build this team at or above the physical prototypes of every position. And I know that Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesidor are 6'2.5", 6'3" each, and prototype is like 6'5", 6'6" for an edge rusher. So like not necessarily at every single position, but like when you look across the board, like you look at a Justin Scott, 6'5", 305 defensive tackle. Okay, yeah, that yeah, I'm buying that jersey. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah, just having that kind of physicality. So that's been a strength for our team and foundational, like I said, to the performance of the defense. And yeah, that matchup is really going to Miami's defensive line against Ohio State's offensive line is going to be really, really key, just to the story and the outcome of the game.
Yeah, for sure. I think the other part of it too is like that just goes back to exactly what we talked about at the beginning. Like, just because like Ohio State does not want to get into a rock fight. They do not want to play out of a phone booth against Miami because Miami's built like that. They are like that in the trenches. They're going to win they're going to win the trench battle. So it really is going to come down to that. I guess, how do you expect Miami to, I guess, take care of Ohio State's receiving core? And when I say receiving core, I mainly mean like Jeremiah Smith, Tate. What are the thoughts from Miami fans and kind of maybe what you guys are thinking of how that will be approached?
Yeah, that's going to be the other thing that's key on defense. Like I think that with the defensive line that also goes into the rush defense, like we've talked about. So like that kind of goes together where fit the run, linebackers can fit up, and then you just kind of deal with all of that. So all of that goes together. So for everybody listening, I'm not ignoring the run game component at all. Like that's foundational to the operation of the defense. Insofar as the secondary, it's going to have to be it's going to be a variety of schemes, I think. And obviously players make plays, so it's going to be key for those players who are out there to do their jobs. And there are a variety of defenders. It'll be interesting. OJ Frederick, freshman All-American last year, battled a little bit of inconsistency and injury this year, but he's a starter. Xavier Lucas, who came back home from Wisconsin, and that famous, recruiting, or not recruiting, but transfer portal issue where they didn't allow him to go into the portal and just said, cool, I withdraw from the university, and I enrolled at the University of Miami, SMD. But yeah, he's another guy with, talent and ability. Ethan O'Connor transferred in from Washington State. He's a big 6'3" cornerback. And then you have your safeties, Jacoby Thomas, Zachariah Poyser, Keontae Scott, the, would have been All-American, Thorpe Award, at least finalist if he wouldn't have missed time with the turf toe injury that kept him out for 3 or 4 games. There are, and then Bryce Fitzgerald, the middle field safety, who is second in the FBS with 6 interceptions as a true freshman, by the way.
Damn.
It's going to take everybody. And, different guys do different things better than others. I don't know if Damari Brown is going to be back. He's battling a foot injury. Another outstanding cornerback who I thought was very underrated this year because there were other guys getting the headlines. But without him, and he's kind of, big and physical, those are going to be, I just gave you all the names of the guys in the secondary who are really going to play snaps. If you're playing anybody beyond those guys, it's a little bit of a problem. For example, I mean, whatever, like I've already said this in public, like Jason Taylor's son, Isaiah Taylor, transferred in from Rice, and he played every now and then in like, as the nickelback or whatever. But if we're seeing Isaiah Taylor in this game, like either we're winning or losing by 50. Like that, you know what I mean? But if he's playing in like,
yeah,
it's a 1-score game, concern. But I think, yeah, it's going to take, like the pass defense is a component of the entire defense, and like the defensive line and pressure is going to be part of that, and a variety of schemes. You're not going to just leave anybody one-on-one, man-to-man on the outside, I hope, against either Tate or Jeremiah, because that's just you're trying to set yourself up for failure.
Yeah.
But a variety of schemes, a mixture of man and zone, zone, I don't know, maybe a little bit of zone blitz, even though we don't do too much of that, but it's just you're going to have to keep changing the picture up. You're going to have to do things where, hey, maybe you walk a linebacker down and then you blitz him and then you drop a defensive end into a short hook to curl kind of a range or something. But you're going to have to do a variety of things and do them well. So it's not like 2001 Miami or even into the late 90s, right? What was that team? Cover 2, man under, every down. Like every single play, that's what we're running.
Our guys are better than your guys.
Right, exactly. So we have two over the top, man to man across the board. Figure it out. If you win, we got Ed Reed or Sean Taylor covering every blade of grass in the backfield. We'll go intercept that there. Our guys are better than yours. Set it and forget it. Boom. This is not that. And if it could be that at times, Ohio State is not the opponent with whom we want to run that engagement. Like you could do that against Stanford. You're not going to do that against Ohio State. So it's going to be a mixture of things. And I always tell a good friend of mine, you have to make choices. Like life is about choices. Football and sport is about choices. Because he complains sometimes. He's like, man, I'm playing on the video game and this team went man to man. That's stupid. It's like they got to make a choice. Because if you're running it on zone and you're gashing him and your running back has 14 yards of carry, eventually they're going to have to walk somebody up and then not have him back deep to play defense in the secondary. And it's the same kind of a thing. We're going to have to make choices. We're going to have to be educated with those. You're looking at the tendencies, looking at the progression, looking at the situation of the game, and mixing things up for the receivers, in terms of what we're doing coverage-wise and, press technique or bail or, man or zone, but also for Julian Sand. We got to give him different pictures and make him figure it out, hopefully quickly with our defensive line getting there. So that's a little bit of a long answer, but like that's the thing that I've been thinking about most. Not necessarily even the run game or the defensive line versus your offensive line, where I do believe we have an advantage. What are we going to do on the back end? That's really what I've been thinking about.
Well, you know what they say, the best pass coverage is a good pass rush. So
Amen.
If Messidor and Bain are getting pressure, like you said, only sending 4, that is A+, take that all day if you're Miami, and that's a winning formula for you. So I think if early on, if you see Bain and Messidor being active, getting in the backfield, that's a very, 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 very good sign for Miami, and I think that's exactly how you want it. Then you can send the other 7 guys back into coverage. There's a lot more less holes out there to take away Jeremiah and Carnell Tate. So I think that if Miami can get pressure with 4, they'll be all right. If they're struggling to get pressure with 4, that might be where you see some struggles and where you see some shots get taken and some plays get made down the field.
Yeah, and look, it's not going to – I would love it if it were pressure with 4 on every play, right? But even if it's – let's call it 50%. Let's call it 5 out of 10, right? But if you're rushing with 4, that means you got 5 other plays, buddy, with time and windows. So those pressures, hits, sacks, whatever on those 5 plays would be impactful for Miami's defense. But then okay, if you don't get there on the other plays, because you're not going to get home on every single play, it's just unrealistic. This is where the variety of scheme and hopefully the performance and execution of it on the back end also will come into account, because you're not going to just I don't think that any Miami fan is expecting to shut out J4. I'm not expecting a goose egg. You know what I mean? He's going to get something. Carnell Tate's going to get something.
Right.
But in the course of the game, can you mitigate it enough to still give yourself on the other side a chance to go out there and win?
Yeah, that something can't be a 50 or 60-yard bomb to one of them, each of them. You just have to – they're going to get theirs at some point, but limit the explosives, get them tackled, live to see another down. Honestly, I think from Ohio State's standpoint, I hope Miami comes up with the game plan to blitz, to send extra guys at Sand. Sand's the number 1 quarterback in college football against the blitz. He's really, really smart, really, really accurate, and gets the ball out quick. He reminds me, I'm a Bengals fan too, so he reminds me a lot of Burrow. He's not going to force much. He has had throws. He's freshman quarterback. He's going to force stuff. But he's a lot of times going to take what the defense gives him. You're going to see him throw a lot of checkdowns into the flat just because you have the 2 high safeties immediately going out to guard Jeremiah and Carnell. He typically identifies where the blitz is coming from and makes you pay from that standpoint. So if Miami comes in with the game plan to blitz, they're probably going to hit home on some, but I think the times that they aren't, I hope Julian can do what he's done this entire season, identify where it's coming from, and make them pay. The other side of this is Ohio State's defense and shutting down Malachi Toney. I've said this a few times. Malachi Toney is that dude. He reminds me, honestly, as I was watching him, a little bit of a Percy Harvin. I'm not really sure what his position is. It's basically just get that boy the ball. He's lining up at running back. He's lining up in the slot. He's lining up on on the outside as an outside receiver. And I don't know, your guys' offensive coordinator does a fantastic job getting him in motion, using him in motion to get him the ball, using him in motion as a decoy to get all the attention on him and then hit somebody on the other side. So I think if you're Ohio State, you always have to know where number 10 is. First and foremost, you have to stop the run. Stop the run, make Miami live in second and third and long. From there, you have to always know where number 10 is. And that could be handing it off to him. That could be giving him a jet sweep. That could be throwing a screen. That could be hitting you downfield with him. Whatever that may be, they need to rally to the football because they need to get 2 or 3 or 4 hats on the ball because that dude can make guys miss and he can go get extra yards. If you're only tackling him one-on-one, well, your one is not going to win because Malachi Toney's going to juke his ass and he's going to go get another 5 yards. So
yeah,
I think
he might win, but not all the time.
Right.
But yeah, no, Malachi Toney is, sorry to cut you off there. He's incredible.
No, you're
good. Yeah, this is a kid who was a legend as a optimist quarterback, but he's 5'10", so he goes to high school and sets the world on fire. He had an interview in his debut game on ESPN after he scored his second touchdown, I want to say. They interviewed him on the sideline, and the sideline reporter just said, so what was the thought? And he was like, I went to the quarterback, and I knew the guy covering me, and he told the quarterback, he said, he not good as me. Throw me the ball. And that's basically been the story of Malachi Toney's career. This is a kid who reclassified up, right? So he should be a senior in high school right now. He should be getting ready to play in the Army or the Navy All-American game, right?
Yeah.
And like thinking about prom and, whatever. This kid reclassified up, won all the awards in South Florida for the best high school football player over actual seniors, and enrolled in Miami in January at 17 years old. Like I said, he turned 18 in September. So it was multiple games at the beginning of the year when he was a 17-year-old kid. And he led American Heritage to a state championship at quarterback because their quarterback got hurt, not just this year as a senior, but last year as a junior. And they're like, well, we need
played quarterback
for the playoffs. Yeah, because Diabell got hurt. And they're like, yo, we need a quarterback for the rest of the playoffs for the final 3 games.
Put your best athlete up. Throw our best athlete at quarterback. He can throw, he can run, he can do literally everything.
He started the state championship game 15 for 15 for 193 yards and 3 tuds.
That's honestly something to make note of. That Miami could have some kind of wrinkle where give him on a jet sweep. Yeah. Oh, nope, he's throwing the ball.
No, and we tried it against Texas A&M, had a touchdown, but the throw got yeeted by the wind, like almost like from the field to the stands. It was crazy. But he's thrown multiple touchdowns this year. So yeah, you're like, oh, lining up at running back, like we have it, the Malley cat, we call it. But yeah, we put him at quarterback. And
yeah,
he will dot you up. Like he's hit throws to his second and third reads on trick plays. Like this is not just a one read and go type dude when you give him the ball. But if you want to run it, cool. If you want to catch it, cool. If you want him to throw it, he can do that and has done it this year. So yeah, he's an offensive weapon of the highest order. Usually, even if you line him up as the Z, he will motion inside to the slot. So if he's, the one from the sideline, he motions to the 2. In play action, we like to do a lot of like deep over routes with him. That was the touchdown that he scored up top against Florida State, was that same scheme, but we've seen him run it a lot. His short area quickness is elite. So if you want to run, whip routes, quick crosses, if you want to, find a spot in the zone on 3rd and 8, like he'll just run a little spacing route and do those things. Like, I mean, with the exception of being 6'5" and just head topping, mossing people, he'll do everything and anything that you need a wide receiver and an offensive player to do. So, yeah, it's going to be key for us to get him the ball in space and just let him work. And then also use him as a decoy to create space for the other players. But, yeah, Malachi Toney is truly incredible. He's 8 yards from 1,000 on the year. He will become, when he gets that, the first Miami Hurricane true freshman to ever cross the 1,000-yard receiving mark. He's truly incredible. I can't speak highly enough about him. And the fact that he's super young because, like, yeah, he reclassified a year up. And I mentioned Armando Blunt in that same thing because he did the same reclassification up early. So Armando Blunt, a defensive lineman who plays both outside and inside, is like a young 19, and Malachi Toney is a young 18 as a true freshman as well. And yeah, he's incredible.
I think that I've seen enough to where I think I'm going to throw some futures on Toney the next 2 years to win the Heisman, because I'm sure next year those odds are going to be pretty good. And then I think in 2 years, he'll definitely be in the conversation because he's kind of just having his coming out party right now. And like I said, I think your guys' offensive coordinator is fantastic just with how he gets him involved or doesn't get him involved. I think it was a play against Pitt where he started off in the slot, motioned into the backfield. They snapped the ball, faked the handoff. He motioned into the backfield, and then he went right back out to the slot, and you saw like 4 Pitt guys just go busting that way. And then here he opens up, your guys' tight end slips out the back end for a slip screen, dumped it off to him, walks right into the end zone. And I'm like, wow. Yeah. Like, that's the amount of attention that he brings, and that's what he makes you prepare for. And like, before I really started to dig into Miami, I knew about Bain, I knew about Messidor, I knew about Fletcher. Like, I knew you guys had a fantastic defense that was led by a really good pass rush, and I knew you guys could run the ball. The 2 things that I did not know, where I was like, I think Carson Beck isn't very good, and I think Malachi Toney's probably overrated. And that was before I watched. When I sat down and watched, I said, no. Carson Beck has played some pretty good ball this year. He's got some pretty nice throws that he's put on tape. In Malachi Toney, I don't know what position he plays, but the possession is get that boy the ball. That is what he is, and you guys are gonna have a lot of fun watching him the next 2 years.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's already, great watching him. But yeah, he's mostly a slot receiver, but yeah, he is a true offensive weapon. Just put him pretty much wherever. And he's the punt returner on this team as well. And he's been so close to taking these punts to the house all year long.
I watched the A&M game. I watched the Pitt game, and he might have done it against SMU too, probably. But I saw him run 2 or 3 basically all the way back to the fact where I'm like, don't even kick it to him. Like, just kick it out of bounds. I would rather take a 10-yard punt less that doesn't go as far than allow him to take it 40. Like, that's a net 30 yards that we're gaining here. And if you do kick it to him, it better be high in the air where there's somebody in his face and he's fair catching it. I am not letting him return the ball at all, because he's the type of guy where you might get up, like, this is going to be a rock fight. It's going to be a dog fight. It might be a low-scoring game. You might find yourself, if you're Ohio State, up 13-3, middle of the third quarter. Miami's offense hasn't been able to get going all day, and you kick it to Malachi Toney, and he returns one, and now we got a game. Now they have the momentum. Like, that's what I think. If you're Ohio State, you can't let him be a factor. Like, you can't give him the ball. If Malachi Toney is getting the ball, it is because they are handing it off to him, they are throwing it to him, they are doing that thing. It is not because you decide you were dumb and you kicked it to him.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's just you have to mitigate the touches for star players.
Exactly.
I mean, same thing. I mean, it's a different play style, but it's the same thing as Jeremiah Smith on our side. Like, no, we're not. Like, if we have the ability to, by our performance, give him the ball fewer times, we're going to do that. So like, I don't disagree with you, like, from the opposing side of, like, if by our performance, i.e. how we punt in the directional or whatever, we limit or remove 2 or 3 times of him touching the ball,
right,
regardless of if there's space or not, I would rather just not have that. So yeah, he's super impactful, and then opens things up for others. CJ Daniels has had a solid year, even though he's battled a little bit of injury. Keelan Marion has been more impactful as a receiver than I thought he was going to be. He was an All-American kick returner at BYU last year. He's had some good kick returns, but hasn't taken one back. But he's been really, really strong as a receiver in moments. Excuse me. And then there's another there are 2 other true freshmen who actually played this year as well at receiver, Joshua Moore and Dalen Upshaw. but Upshaw, I believe, he hurt himself in the preparation for the first round game, so he will not be playing. But yeah, Malachi Toney is not the only freshman who's seen the field, but I mean, far and away the most impactful on the offensive side.
Yeah, I exactly like you said. You're not going to voluntarily give the other team's best player the ball. You can't let him return punts. You can't let him field it. You can't give him the opportunity to change momentum or make an impact on the game. You have to limit that. The other side of that, like you guys are young. Miami is on a very good trajectory right now. You guys have made the playoff now. You're playing a lot of really young guys, so next year you're going to be really good. And just the more success you had, that's just going to breed better recruiting, keeping more of the Malachi Toneys that are right in your backyard in South Florida. So there's a lot to be excited about for Miami for sure. Like I think that then you look at like teams that are just going to consistently be in the playoff the next 5 to 10 years. I don't see any reason why Miami isn't one of those 5 to 10 teams that is just always in the playoff as we go forward.
I mean, that's the hope and goal. Obviously, it's taken time to really rebuild this program and get here. I just think that this is a well leveled team in terms of chronology. Like, yes, we are playing freshmen. Like, you have your Malachi Toney, your Gerard Pringle at running back, who's worked his way up the depth chart and is probably the number. I mean, he's probably the number 2 running back right now. Shamar Brown, who came down from North Dakota State after winning a national championship there last year, he's another big running back to rotate with Fletcher. So I mean, you can kind of look at those 3. But he's only a redshirt sophomore, so there's that. Offensive line are all older dudes. That'll happen. Your quarterback is a 6-year senior. That'll happen. But there's a variety of players, both senior and freshman at receiver. Same thing at tight end. You have a senior and a sophomore as your top 2. Defensive line, same thing. Linebacker, same thing. Cornerback are mostly upperclassmen. And at safety, you have a 5th-year senior, redshirt sophomore, and then, a true freshman in Bryce Fitzgerald off the bench. And the ball just finds him. So that would be a thing for defense. I don't know if we're talking about defense, but for when Ohio State has the ball, and especially when they're throwing the ball, be on the lookout for number 13 in the Miami secondary. Bryce Fitzgerald is his name. He's a true freshman. And he has 6 interceptions this year, including 2 against Texas A&M, including the final play to win us the game. So, the ball just finds him. Everybody has always said that since he got to campus. And he was not an early enrollee because he went to a school in Christopher Columbus in Miami that does not allow for early graduation. So he didn't show up until the end of May. And all through the summer, everybody was talking about, dude, every practice, every, whatever, free workout, whatever they call them, but every time that these players hit the field, the ball finds Bryce Fitzgerald. So it's an innate knack of his performance, and it's continued to bear itself out to be true all season long. And so, yeah, I would say look at that potentially for when he has the ball, or when y'all have the ball.
You said he plays safety, right?
Yeah, free safety. He was the guy who came in and played nickel when Keontae Scott was injured. But yeah, he's like the 1/3 of, or covering the 1/3 of the earth that's not water in the middle of the field. That's Bryce Fitzgerald. Like, he just makes play, and the ball just finds him always.
Yeah. 6 INTs to get there in May is very wild.
Yeah.
So before we round everything out here, I want to get in and give you a little bit of time to say why you think Miami wins, and then I want to give a little bit of time to say why I think Ohio State wins.
Okay.
But before we move on to that, is there any other matchup, anything else that you were maybe wanting to talk about or ask an Ohio State fan's perspective on something before we move on to that?
Just your rundown of the Ohio State pass defense versus Miami's passing offense. And I know that we singled out Malachi Toney for his, performing excellence, but schematically, obviously you have Carson Beck. He's started, 40-something college games. He's very accurate, 75 or 77% completions this year. Played in a lot of big games and things like that. But yeah, so how do you see that matchup affecting or impacting the game, really. Miami's passing offense versus Ohio State's passing defense.
Yeah, so I think Miami has an elite offensive line. Like, I think that if you want to go out and make a take that their offensive line is just as good, if not better, than their defensive line, I don't think that that's crazy by any means. I saw a clip that a Miami fan had posted of your guys' left tackle against Texas A&M, and I think Texas A&M's best pass rusher last name was Howe, and he held him like literally nothing. Like, just a massive human being, and honestly 5 massive human beings straight across the board that I think that they're definitely going to try to lean on to establish a run game, and then that will allow them to be a little bit more effective in pass protection for Beck. I think that whenever you talk about like Ohio State's pass rush, I would give Miami like a 9 or a 10 out of 10 and how good it would be, and I would give Ohio State probably like a 7 to 8. And obviously, you probably know about Kenyatta Jackson, Caden Curry. Caden Curry, I think, has 11 or 12 sacks on the year. Kenyatta Jackson probably has, 7 or 8. Defensive tackle spots, Caden McDonald, going to be a first-rounder. Not much of a pass rush, but a really, really, really good in the run game, where the fact that teams aren't able to run the ball on Ohio State primarily because of how good Caden McDonald is right across the ball. Like I said, he's probably going to be picked somewhere in the 20 to 32 range, but I would definitely expect him to go in the first round. I think Ohio State's best pass rusher, and sometimes it's a little frustrating because they don't always allow him to do so because he's also the quarterback spy, especially when they're playing quarterbacks like Bryce Underwood or Fernando Mendoza, who can make some plays with its feet, is Arvell Reese. Arvell Reese has been claimed as potentially the best non-quarterback in the entire NFL draft. And there have been times when they just throw him on the edge and say, Arvell, go get the quarterback. I don't know if there's a better pass rusher in college football, honestly. The dude is an absolute freak of nature, and I think the thing that is most impressive about him is his speed. You'll see a lot of times it's not even like he'll get after you straight off the snap, but most of the time it is because he's quarterback spying. The ball snapped, he's kind of hanging out. Quarterback goes to make a move, and then he just explodes, and he's there to make a play. I think that if there's anybody on Ohio State's defense, he is definitely, in terms of a pass rush, I expect them to kind of unleash him a little bit more this game. I think Carson Beck is respectable running the ball, but I don't think it's something that necessarily scares you by any means. And I'm sure that they'll have a quarterback spy, which I honestly kind of like a quarterback spy in certain situations if it's like 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, because there's nothing more annoying than watching a quarterback scamper for 7 yards to get a first down, and you had it covered perfectly, you got good pressure, but the quarterback just found a crease and escaped. So I still think that they will to an extent because it's not like Beck is terrible on his feet, but I think that they'll run a little bit less quarterback spy this game and allow Arvell Reese to just go get the quarterback, which I think is where he is at his best. And aside from that, just as the defense as a whole, I think that there's probably 4 surefire first-rounders on the defense, 1 being Caden McDonald, 2 being Arvell Reese, 3 being Sonny Styles, who is a junior at linebacker as well. I think it was going into the Indiana game. I don't think he even had a missed tackle the entire year. He might have not even have had a missed tackle against Indiana. I really don't know. I just remember seeing that stat before the game. And then the 4th obviously being Caleb Downs, who is kind of the quarterback of the defense, gets everybody in their spots, kind of just lures around. He's always moving around on the field. But yeah, kind of a long-winded answer and got a little bit into the rest of the defense. But I think that Ohio State's pass rush is very good, just a tick below Miami's.
Okay, yeah. But yeah, I think that, obviously with Caleb Downs out there, and he's incredible. And so, I mean, all the guys that you mentioned are you have a very, very good team. It pains me to say it, but it's true.
Yeah.
So
I think the crazy part is I think Caleb kind of gets forgotten about sometimes because like Cade McDonald, I forget the saying that you had said about like close to the ball.
Big dudes
for
close to the ball, man.
big dudes close to the ball. I mean, that's Sonny Styles, that's Arvell Reese, that's Caden McDonald, that's Kenyatta Jackson, that's Caden Curry. That sometimes you always kind of forget, like Caleb Downs is out there, and he does a lot of things that you don't always notice until you throw one out into the flat, and then here comes number 2 just flying downhill and smacking somebody. So yeah,
Okay.
very, very talented defense. Obviously, Matt Patricia was a phenomenal hire. I thought it was a home run hire from the beginning. I didn't understand the people that hated it. Like, the dude literally was a DC for 2 Super Bowl winning teams, for arguably the best NFL head coach of all time. Obviously, you still got to go out there and perform. I'm not sitting here saying that they're going to completely shut down Miami. Miami's got really good players, really good quarterback. Malachi Toney's really good, very good offensive line, a stud at running back, and a good OC that knows how to call plays and get a good offensive game plan and a good offensive scheme. So not to say that they're going to go out there and shut Miami down by any means. Miami has dudes, and they're in this spot for a reason.
Absolutely. I was just looking up the defensive passing statistics. Okay, so you've not allowed more than 248 yards passing this season. Okay. And that was to Illinois.
I would also say I don't think we've faced an elite passing attack, though. I would say Indiana was good. Indiana didn't get a ton of yards. Fernando Mendoza just made throws when he needed to in really critical spots. He made 2 or 3 or 4, like, have to have it, really good throws down the field. But yeah, I mean, I'm being the first one to tell you, Ohio State's schedule this year, for the most part, has been complete dog shit. And I think a lot of that, like, the teams they played just weren't very good. This is playoff, completely different teams we're facing now.
I mean, yeah, still, but 1, 2, 3, 5, 6 teams held under 100 yards passing. Like, I get that it can be bad, but, like, buddy, that's still, that's still elite performance with another game at 113 allowed. So, 7 games with fewer than 115 yards passing allowed, which is kind of crazy. And only 2 games over 200. So, that's definitely going to be key. I don't think, I think for Miami, they're going to need, it's going to be a legendary game, or needs to be, or at least in legendary moments from Carson Beck to be able to win. Similar to Fernando Mendoza, a Miami native who went to Columbus and wanted to come here, whatever. I didn't really want him out of high school or out of Cal, so I'm fine with watching his success.
I don't think anybody really did.
Yeah, I mean, like, it just reeked of. Yeah, he's fine. He's fine.
He's just one of those dudes that just developed late. He's kind of dorky, nerdy. Like, he can sling the ball around a little bit. He gets all the guys around him. They buy into that Kurt Signetti culture of we're the misfits. Nobody wanted us. Like, let's all come together and make something happen. He's a good leader. Yeah. He can play a little bit. Good kid, like that type of thing. But there was a lot of people that didn't want him.
And I mean, but obviously it sticks out more because he went to Columbus, and I think his dad went there with Cristobal and played with Cristobal at Miami, and yada yada yada. All those things, like, because he's a native son, a local boy. But for this game, I think that our actual quarterback, you're going to have some of those same gotta have it moments and gotta have it throws that Mendoza had if you're going to want to win for Miami. So I think that is foundational for how Miami wins. I think running the ball effectively, I think 4 yards a carry plus can be sustainable for Miami to win this game. Obviously, I would like a little bit more. If we can get 5, 5.5, 6 or more per carry, then, like, I think we're really cooking with fish grease. But, for a Miami win, you're going to need Carson Beck to step up in big moments. And this is why we paid him the money. This is why we brought him in for these moments to make these throws. And this is where I think he has the ability to make these throws and make these plays in these moments, but we just have to see it. So you put that together with a solid run game, with a moment of excellence or two from someone on offense, whether that's a Malachi Toney, whether that's Mark Fletcher Jr., whether that's Gerard Pringle, whether that's Keelan Marion, CJ Daniels, Elijah Lofton, the tight end, whomever. And I don't know who's going to make these 2 to 3 plays, but you're going to need some real, like, eternally memorable plays from that. From those guys. Offensive line needs to just continue to play like our offensive line has played. I don't need anything extra. Even the performance that we saw against Texas A&M, who for my money was the best team that we played this year, Notre Dame inclusive, a similar kind of performance is what we're going to need to see, but that is a tough ask against an even more talented and better team, again, in Ohio State. Defensively, we're going to have to be opportunistic. I always say that Miami's going to need to win the turnover battle, probably +2, to get a victory, and then probably in there, it could be on the turnover plays or somewhere else. You're going to need another 2 to 3 legendary plays, whether that's a Bryce Fitzgerald interception in the end zone in overtime, like happened against Texas A&M, whether it's a Keontae Scott sack forced fumble, like happened earlier in the A&M game, whatever it is. So, across the board, somewhere between 4 to 7 legendary plays, running the ball and hitting timely throws and finding some explosivity on offense, and then just not having any major breakdowns on defense. Ohio State is very talented. They are incredibly skilled as well, because talent and skill are two different things. Make them use their talent and skill to go score. Don't have a blown coverage and somebody running butt naked wide open.
Yeah.
So those are the thing. And then like timely special teams play, whether it's a Malachi Toney return, whether that's a Carter Davis field goal or something like that. You wrap all that together. That's the path where I see, and also foundational on defense, stopping the run. You got to take that away and make Ohio State throw only, but then also use that to your advantage with pass rush and then a variety of coverages. So all those things wrapped together, if you get all of those things, I believe Miami can win. I think it is an uphill battle, I hate to say, for all of that to happen, because I think that you really do need all of that to happen. So if you're 1 or 2 of my points short in terms of performance on the field, then I don't necessarily think that it will be a victory. I hope that they prove me wrong, but yeah, I would say that soliloquy of items, you will need all of that or nearly all of that to be able to win the Cotton Bowl.
Yeah, I honestly had pretty similar thoughts as well. Like if I thought of a world, how does Miami win? First and foremost, they have to be able to run the ball, and then from there, Carson Beck needs to step up and make throws whenever the opportunities present themselves. If they can run, things instantly open up for Malachi Toney. And I think that from a matchup standpoint that we didn't really talk about earlier, Lorenzo Styles, who has been Ohio State's nickel corner this year, has been food at times. It's been an area that teams can exploit, and they've had plays. So if Miami's offensive coordinator can get something schemed up where they get Malachi Toney one-on-one with Lorenzo Styles, you take that shot if you're Miami every single day, because he's been beat multiple times this year going that way.
Okay.
I think that Miami's defense, if you can limit the explosive plays, like Ohio State's going to hit you with some punches, but if you can tackle very well, which Miami is a fantastic tackling team, limit the explosive plays and get guys on the ground, almost play a bend, don't break defense whenever Ohio State does drive. I think that plays well into what exactly Miami wants to do, especially with Ohio State showing struggles with the ability to kick the ball, particularly in the Big Ten Championship. That is not something that if Ohio State needs to put the ball in the end zone, or I'm honestly a little nervous, even if we're from 15 yards out. And lastly, if they can get after Julian Sand and really try to turn this into a rock fight. Like I think if Miami can flex their muscles in the trenches and make this a trench game, I think Miami wins.
Okay. Heard. So we've talked about the Miami side. So then, share with me the Ohio State side. How does Ohio State earn victory?
Yeah, I think a lot of it kind of goes back to what we talked about up until this point. I think it all comes down to how aggressive the play calling is. I think if we get as Ohio State fans like to joke, a coked up Ryan Day, like he's fuming, like he's got veins popping out of his neck type of Ryan Day, I think that Ohio State wins the game. I think that executing on first down is extremely crucial to getting 2nd and 5, 2nd and 6, 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3 situations. Try to take Ruben Bain and Messidor out of the game as much as what you possibly can. I think they need to come out throwing punches early, throw the ball a lot in the first and second quarter, and Ohio State's always at their best whenever they throw early and run late. They throw early, hit you downfield a few times, get you to pull some guys out of the box, and then they start to hit you with the run game later. That's typically how and when Ohio State is at their best. SMU hit Miami with a lot of different screens, a lot of different short three-yard hitch routes. Ohio State runs the shit out of especially the 3-yard hitch routes, so I expect them to have a lot of that mixed in, and then I think that will just get your corners and your secondary sucked in, and then it's okay, let's take a timely shot. We got a 2nd and 2, we got the ball on the 40-yard line, let's do a play action and take a shot. We've hit them 5-6 times now and something short underneath. Now let's hit 17 or hit 4 over the top.
Okay.
I think from Ohio State's defensive standpoint, first and foremost, stop the run. And both of Miami's losses, Beck still threw for 271 yards against Louisville and 274 yards against SMU, but Fletcher only rushed for 18 against Louisville and 84 against SMU. So I think that there's a proven formula there that if you can stop the run, Miami instantly becomes one-dimensional. And when you look at Carson Beck, especially whenever he's facing blitzers, and DC, like Matt Patricia, likes to dial up a lot of exotic blitzers, send guys from random areas, make you completely keep guessing, and honestly, like try to make the quarterback almost see ghosts at the end of the day. Carson Beck is 112th in college football facing the blitz. So I think if you first and foremost can stop the run, get Miami into long second and third and long downs, I think that bodes well. And then you start to send guys at Beck and hopefully get him to throw an interception or two. I think if Ohio State limits the run game, I think that they'll find themselves up top. From a final score perspective, I think that this will be a very low-scoring affair. I still have a hard time seeing Ohio State put up something like 30, even 25, 35, 40 points. I think the final score will be something like 20, Ohio State 20, Miami 13.
Okay. I think maybe there's going to be a couple more scores. I think like 13 is 3 scores for Miami, and 20 is 4 scores for Ohio State. Yeah, I think maybe something. I don't think it's going to be a blowout either way. I think maybe a 24, like a 24-17, or 27-21 kind of a thing. Just a couple more points, I think, can be out there. Especially, I just don't see that real dearth of points that we saw against A&M repeating itself. Like, it took a real perfect storm for that game to be so low scoring. So even though I think it's still going to be very competitive in that way, I think it's going to be just maybe a couple more points for the teams. But yeah, something in that same range. It gives me no joy to predict that Miami will not be victorious in this game. I just think that there's more of a margin of error for Ohio State, where for Miami, like I said, we kind of need to pitch a perfect game. And
that's very fair.
I don't even with, again, good performance, great players on both sides. I don't know that we have a perfect game in us, especially in the key areas that we talked about, with third downs, with passes, with So like, that's just kind of my view on it. But yeah, kind of similar things from that. And, hey, I was wrong about Bryce Fitzgerald as a recruit, and I've been eating my humble pie on that all year.
You'll gladly do that, though.
Yeah, exactly. But hey, I would love to be wrong and have Miami win by the same score or, more or whatever. I would love to be wrong. I just unfortunately don't see it that way playing out. But this team is definitely built for the moment. I don't believe that we're going to kind of just, lay an egg and get boat raced or anything like that, which is another step in the right direction. And, hopefully we're able to find enough plays to go win. I just struggle to see it all coming together in that way at this moment.
I'll leave you with this before we get off here. Ohio State's last few losses that they've had the last couple of years have been to teams that are built like Miami is built. It's a smack you in the mouth, very good in the trenches, play out of a phone booth, get into a rock fight, tough, ass-minded, hard-hitting, physical football team, and that's exactly all the words that describe Miami. So for myself personally, I think Ohio State will win, but if you talk about like how confident I am, if you told me give me a score out of 10, it's definitely not a 10. It's probably like a 6 to 7 because I have seen these types of teams Ohio State go against in the past. I've seen Ryan Day get conservative. I've seen them get tricked into playing these rock fights or the out of a phone booth that we've talked about. So I think that this is definitely a really interesting matchup and probably one of the more interesting games of the 4. And that's probably part of the reason why it's on New Year's Eve, right at 8 o'clock on ESPN. I cannot wait.
Yeah, me either. And your last point is well met. And it goes back to what I was talking about earlier. Like, yes, Miami is built for this moment to compete with and beat a team of this caliber. You know what I mean? Like, we're not some fly by night, super fluke, mid-major kind of a team. Like, these are big boys. And I mean that literally and figuratively. Like, we are built and constructed intentionally to, like, our smallest offensive lineman is 6'3", 295.
Yeah.
As our center. Like, our left tackle, Markel Bell is 6'9", 340.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And everybody else is, 6'6", 325 plus. That's the left tackle. And we play 2 left guards, by the way. We rotate them intentionally. Between Matthew McCoy and Samson Okunlola, but then you have Anez Cooper and then Francis Mawinoa, consensus All-American at right tackle, and they're all gigantic dudes. This is by design and intentionality. So, yeah, it is in the realm of possibilities that Miami can put it together and, earn victory against this team because we've seen, like you said, similarly constructed teams give Ohio State issues in the past. That is my hope and everything. I'm, obviously not 100% on that hope being turned into reality, but yeah, that is the hope for Miami, and they have the physicality and the size on the roster to be able to do that. It is just, again, we're going to need some big performances in a big moment. 8 o'clock New Year's Eve night, I'm going to be dialed in. I'm going to have everything here, and I'm super excited to see it. And I'll be rooting the Canes all the way.
What do you plan on doing for the game? You going to hit up a bar or something down in Fort Lauderdale, or are you just going to hang out at home and watch it at home?
Hanging out at home. I got a live tweet and blog and everything. So, we got all of that. And I will, connect with others through the magic of social media. I'm going to do exactly what I have done all year long. So
there you go.
Sit in my same seat with my same computer on my same television. It's what I did last week. It's what I'm going to do. I know that we're wearing white jerseys. I have my white number 1 Cam Moore jersey. It was before they put the branding on it, so it wasn't technically Cam, but whatever. But I have my white Canes jersey that I'm going to wear because we're wearing white. I don't know if we're going white over orange or if we're going Stormtroopers. I love the Stormtrooper unit look, though. But yeah, doing that, sick. Staying here, and then just going to do that. So, you're going to go be out with the people, celebrating or what?
Yeah, I think I might try to get out with some people, kind of see what's going on. But I'm in the same boat, though. Like, it's always fun to do that, but I always want to be live tweeting as well, and I hate just, like, standing in a group of people, and I'm just on my phone, like, trying to tweet shit out real quick, and I'm like, I don't know. I'll probably try to be out, though. It'll be fun. I'm excited. I can't wait. But, well, thank you, Cam, for coming on the middle ground. I definitely appreciate you making the time. Whenever I posted asking for Miami accounts that wanted to get on and interact, you were one of them that many people tagged and said you would be good. And I can definitely tell you have some experience doing this talking thing over a microphone. So you're really, really good at it. And I definitely thank you very much for coming on a show that is very new and very young. And I always appreciate having a unbiased and respectful conversation, even though both sides may hate each other.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It was a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me. You guys can follow me on Twitter at @StateoftheU or at Underwood Sports. That's my personal one. And the website is StateoftheU.com. It's always open. Please come fan with us. We've already had a bunch of great stuff. We have our National Signing Day story stream still up because, recruiting is the lifeblood of every program. And we have an ongoing story stream for the playoffs, which has all of our pieces from A&M week and then also leading up to this game in one handy spot. So if you're just finding out about us, you can go right on the front page page, click on that, and go back through all the things that we have written, and then be sure that you check in all the other things that will be or are currently being written as we lead up to this game. But again, yeah, I really appreciate the time. I really appreciate the conversation. Thanks so much.
Bet. Thank you, Cam. Let's stay in touch, man.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Go Canes.
Middle ground out.